The Invisible Friend. The Garcia family had just moved into an old house on the outskirts of town. It was a dark stone building with high ceilings, creaky wooden floors, and rooms that felt too big and empty. Esteban and Laura had bought the house at a surprisingly low price, a deal that seemed too good to be true. Their 8-year-old son, Mateo, wasn't like other children. He was quiet and introverted, speaking only when necessary. Since the move, he had become even more withdrawn. "Do you like your new room?" Laura asked as she unpacked some of his toys. She had arranged the room with bright colors and posters to make it feel more welcoming. Mateo didn't answer, just nodded slightly and sat on the floor, staring intently at an empty corner. His eyes seemed fixed on something unseen. Laura sighed, brushing it off. Mateo was probably just adjusting, she thought. The house itself was cold. No matter how many heaters they turned on, it always felt like there was a draft. Laura convinced herself it was just the age of the place, but there was a lingering unease she couldn't shake. Every evening, a deep, creeping silence fell over the house, and the nights seemed unnaturally long. Over the next few days, Mateo spent more and more time alone in his room. He wasn't playing with his toys. Instead, he would sit, quietly whispering to himself. Esteban tried to get him outside to play in the garden, but Mateo always found excuses to return to his room, as if something was waiting for him there. One afternoon, while cleaning, Laura overheard Mateo talking in his room, his voice low and quiet. It was unusual, considering how little he usually spoke. She hesitated at the door before opening it slowly. "Mateo, who are you talking to?" she asked, her voice gentle. Without looking up from where he sat on the floor, Mateo replied, "Sofía." Laura felt a sudden chill. The name hung in the air like an unwelcome guest. They didn't know anyone named Sofía, and Mateo hadn't met any new friends since they moved. Laura felt a growing sense of unease but tried to remain calm. "Who's Sofía?" she asked, crouching down beside him. "She lives here," Mateo whispered, his voice flat and emotionless. "She doesn't have anyone else to play with." Laura forced a smile. An imaginary friend, she thought. It was normal for children, especially during big transitions like moving. But that night, as she lay in bed beside Esteban, she couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that lingered in her chest. Over the following week, things grew stranger. Mateo stopped eating meals with them. He would sit at the table for a moment before quietly slipping away, retreating to his room without explanation. Esteban noticed, too. The boy, once shy but affectionate, had become distant, his eyes always wandering as if following something only he could see. There were nights when Laura would hear light, quick footsteps in the hallway outside their room. She'd rush out, expecting to find Mateo playing, but every time the corridor was empty. The whispers from Mateo's room became more frequent. Laura, worried, decided to ask again. "Mateo, why are you always in your room?" "I like talking to Sofía," he said simply, without looking at her. "What does Sofía say to you?" "She wants me to go with her." That night, Laura lay awake, staring at the ceiling. She thought about the cold spots in the house, the strange creaking sounds that echoed through the walls, and the odd behavior of her son. She couldn't ignore it anymore. Something was wrong. Esteban suggested they look into the history of the house. Maybe it was just old and had structural issues, but a small part of him wondered if there was more to it. He visited the town's library the next day, sifting through old records. What he found was disturbing. A little girl named Sofía had lived in the house over 50 years ago. She had died tragically, after falling down the stairs from the second floor. There were rumors among the locals that Sofia's spirit still wandered the halls, seeking company. Esteban's skin prickled with cold as he read the accounts. When he returned home, he didn't know how to tell Laura what he had learned. That evening, while Esteban tried to formulate how to explain everything to her, Laura was putting Mateo to bed. She noticed something she hadn't before: faint, dusty handprints on the walls near the window. They were small, like those of a child. Heart pounding, she reached out to wipe them away, but no matter how hard she rubbed, the marks wouldn't fade. "Who made these?" she asked Mateo, though she feared she already knew the answer. "Sofía," he said, his voice eerily calm. "She likes to play by the window." That night, unable to bear the mounting terror, Laura and Esteban decided to confront Mateo about his friend once and for all. "Sofía isn't bad," Mateo insisted when they asked him about her. "She's just lonely. She wants me to stay with her. Forever." Desperate, Laura and Esteban sought the help of a local priest. The priest agreed to come to the house and bless it, sensing the deep fear in their voices. When he arrived, the air in the house was thick with tension. As they walked to Mateo's room, the temperature suddenly plummeted. They could see their breath in the air as they stepped inside. Mateo was curled up on his bed, his back to them, murmuring softly. "Sofía," he whispered, over and over. The priest began to pray, but before he could finish, the lights flickered and went out. A loud, heavy thud echoed from the hallway, followed by the soft sound of giggling. Esteban rushed out to the hallway, his heart pounding in his chest. There, at the top of the stairs, stood a figure, a little girl, wearing a white dress, her eyes dark and hollow. She looked at him for a brief moment before disappearing into the shadows. In a panic, Esteban ran back to Mateo's room. But it was too late. The bed was empty. Laura screamed as they heard a soft, childlike giggle coming from the closet. When they opened it, all they found was Mateo's small teddy bear, his constant companion. Their son was gone. The priest, pale and trembling, tried to continue his blessing, but it was useless. Mateo had vanished, and no one could explain how. The police were called, but after weeks of searching, there was no trace of him. The house seemed quieter now, but there were still moments when Laura would hear faint whispers or see those tiny handprints reappear on the walls. Unable to bear the grief, Laura and Esteban left the house. They couldn't stay, not after what had happened. They moved far away, hoping to forget, but the loss of their son haunted them forever. Months later, a new family moved into the house, a young couple with a 5-year-old daughter. It wasn't long before the little girl started talking about her new friend. "His name is Mateo," she said with a smile, "and he told me we'll play together. Forever."